All right, we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast after the break. Just want to remind you again to please like and follow the show. Please do donate gsmcpodcast.net. Not only helps me, but helps all the other content creators on this channel, all the great ones. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell. Really does help. Make sure you get notified every time we upload a video. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for watching, and we'll get back to the show. All right, so segment 2 here is going to be about someone who is involved in the Blake Snell whole situation, and that is Mr. Jordan Montgomery. Now, was he directly involved? No, but everything that happens to Snell does affect Jordan Montgomery at this point. I think when you look at who's left in the market, you have two big pitchers. Those big pitchers, they're Snell and they're Montgomery. And Snell signed first, so that takes out some players for the Montgomery market. I think the Giants were heavily involved in Montgomery, and obviously I don't think they're going to be involved anymore considering they just signed Snell. So I did want to talk about where the Snell signing left Montgomery, some teams that could be fits to sign him, and just overall what's going on with that. So let's get straight into it. So the first team I have with Montgomery is a team that hasn't really been mentioned with him, but I think with them losing out on Snell, I think it could be a fit, and that is the Houston Astros. Now, this would be an easy transition for Montgomery, switching over from Arlington to Houston. I think the Astros make a lot of sense for the same reasons they were involved in Blake Snell. They have a lot of pitching injuries, namely Justin Verlander, Jose Urquidy, guys who play big parts of that rotation. And I think signing a guy like Montgomery really helps you. Really helps you with that rotation. Gives you another arm that will perform really well for you guys. And I think he would be a great signing for them. I don't know if Montgomery would be willing to sign a short-term deal, which I believe the Astros are more likely to do. They are in heavy debt with money right now. Not debt, I shouldn't really say debt, but they are within, they have a lot of money on the books right now. They're very close to the third threshold of the luxury tax, which is basically a no-no. That's what we call the Steve Cohen tax, because they made it because he was spending too much money off the rip. But I think the Astros make a lot of sense if he is willing to take a short-term deal. Again, they have a lot of pitching injuries. They got involved in Snell late because of the pitching injuries they suffered. Sorry about moving here. But, I think the Astros make sense for those reasons. We've only heard them connected to Snell, and I don't really know if they are heavily involved in Montgomery. But it just makes natural sense to pivot from Snell to Montgomery because those are the two guys left in the market, both represented by the same person. I'm sure they could take the negotiation straight from Blake Snell to Jordan Montgomery with Boris. I don't think it'll be a big deal. I think this would be a great opportunity for Montgomery to pitch in another World Series situation. The Astros get a guy who solidifies that rotation depth if Urquidy and Verlander are out for an extended amount of time. He knows the Texas market, obviously. He knows how to pitch in big games. We saw him be one of the deciding factors of why the Rangers won the World Series last year. So I think he makes a lot of sense for the Astros, and I think they are definitely a fit for his services, even though we really haven't heard them mentioned. But on paper, this is a great fit, in my opinion, and it's definitely something I would look towards. I didn't really think this was a fit, but after the way we heard that the Astros were seriously pursuing Blake Snell, it only makes logical sense for them to go after Montgomery after losing out on him. So I definitely think they could be a fit, and I think it would be a seamless one at that if Montgomery does end up going there. The next team we're going to be talking about is kind of the opposite of the Astros, a team that hasn't really been mentioned recently, but overall has been mentioned a lot, and that is the Boston Red Sox. Now, I've talked about Montgomery and the Red Sox so many times over the course of this show, and for good reason. The Red Sox need a starting pitcher, especially now with the injury to Lucas Giolito, who is slotting in to be one of your aces. Montgomery would be a nice fit there. A guy who has connections to the Boston area, is, according to a lot of reports, training out there in the off season. His wife works there in a hospital, so he wouldn't have to move his family at all. Could stay there, be pretty convenient for him. And again, baseball-wise, it makes a ton of sense. The Red Sox, I think, have a better future than a lot of people give them credit for. I think they have a lot of nice young talent there. Guys like Kyle Teal, Marcelo Mayer, Zdeno Rafaela, Now, I've mentioned these guys a lot because I talk about the Red Sox a lot because they are a big market team. I mean, they have a lot of news around them. We're going to talk about the Red Sox more than, a team like the Tigers or the A's or someone like that. Just that's how it works. So if I have talked about the Red Sox prospects too much or the Red Sox too much, that's just the show works. Sorry. But yeah, I think the Red Sox would be a pretty great fit for Montgomery, off the field wise and on the field wise. I think it would give them kind of a bridge to competitiveness, kind of leave them with something. You now have two guys you can look toward to being the top of the rotation guys for a long time. You have Brian Bayo, of course, the top prospect who you just gave a big extension to. You now have Montgomery up there. Maybe one of your guys who are kind of in the mediocre lens right now, as in Garrett Whitlock, Tanner Houck, Carter Crawford, Nick Pivetta, one of those guys steps up. You make them a big part of your future, and then you have three nice guys to build around in that rotation. I think it's definitely possible, and I think Montgomery makes a lot of sense for Boston, on paper and off. So, yeah, I definitely think they're a fit. They've been mentioned a lot with him, including that they had a Zoom meeting around spring training time with him. So I think a lot of ways Montgomery fits with Boston, and I think it's definitely a team to look out for with them. I also think they will be one of the few teams on this list that I have that would be willing to give him a long-term contract. I think because they aren't in the win-now situation like a team like the Astros are, or the Giants who just gave it to Snell. So I think making him a long-term piece of the Red Sox, of their future for the Red Sox, would be intriguing to him and to the Red Sox organization. So I definitely think he's a fit there, and definitely one I'm looking forward to watching and keeping my eyes on as the season does go forward and as the market does go forward. After that, we have another team that's been mentioned. It's mentioned somewhat, but makes a lot of sense on paper, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies I've mentioned less since they extended Zach Wheeler, because I kind of thought those two went hand in hand as they're both big pitcher contracts, but I still think it makes a lot of sense. The Phillies need some help in that rotation. There are some guys, yes, you have, of course, Nola, you have Zach Wheeler, but after that, you have some question marks. Ranger Suarez is good, but Christopher Sanchez, Taijuan Walker, you're relying on those guys for consistent innings. And who would you rather have, Jordan Montgomery or Taijuan Walker or Christopher Sanchez? I'd pick Jordan Montgomery. I think Montgomery to the Phillies makes a lot of sense. It helps them get another great pitcher in that rotation. They would only give him a short-term deal. He could be off the books next year, most likely. It gives them another chance to go to the World Series with a pitcher who has a lot of experience there. I mean, it was one of the big reasons why the Rangers won it, as I mentioned before. So with the Phillies trying to make it back to the World Series, trying to win it this time, I think Montgomery would make a lot of sense in that way. I think having a 1-2-3 of Wheeler, Montgomery, Nola would be pretty incredible. I mean, in a division as competitive as the NL East, I think this would be a great signing for them. I think it makes a lot of sense on paper, and I think it's something that I would definitely watch from a Phillies fan. Again, I think it would be a short-term contract. I don't think they're going to be willing to give him a long-term one. I'm not really sure how Montgomery feels about that. From reports I've read, it's kind of split in the way of they don't really know what he wants. I think him getting a long-term contract is more likely. I think Boris has to know one of these guys. I mean, Bellinger, Chapman, Snell all got short-term contracts. I think Montgomery could be the one to get the long-term deal because he isn't asking for as much as Snell, as Chapman, as Bellinger, because he probably isn't on that level yet. Jordan Montgomery is a very good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's a superstar or a star in this league. I think he's a really good player. But that's kind of it. After that is a team that's potentially a stretch for this, and that is the Texas Rangers. Obviously, he played with the Rangers last year, won a World Series with them, so I think there's a lot of hometown love there. But as we know, Chris Young said that they are okay with the rotation as it is, and that is they are unlikely to bring back Jordan Montgomery. I think this is mainly for money reasons. They have a lot of money on the books going into the future. Of course, they have the Seager and Semien contracts, but you also have a lot of other guys as well, like DeGrom. You have Scherzer for this year. You have, who else you got? You got a lot of other players. You got Evaldi, you got Heaney, you got Gray. You're going to have to pay your other guys as well, like Adolis Garcia, Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, you might even extend. So I think in the long-term situation for their money, I think it doesn't make sense for them to bring them back. Baseball-wise, it makes all the sense in the world because he played there last year. He loved it there last year. A lot of reports have been saying that that's his preferred destination to stay with Texas. So I think it makes a ton of sense in that way, but money-wise, it just doesn't. I mean, they signed David Robertson to a one-year deal and deferred half the money. So that's pretty crazy in my opinion and shows how tight they are for cash. But they won a World Series, so it doesn't really matter at this point. In my opinion, you win a World Series, your fan base is not allowed to complain for 5 years. So I think for 5 years they can do whatever they want because the ultimate goal of winning sports is a World Series, and they did that. So I don't really think Rangers fans can be all that mad. He did what he needed to do. He gave some great prospects for him. I think Thomas Sagasi is going to be a great player for the Cardinals, but I think you do that trade 10 out of 10 times, considering you just won a World Series. Finally, we're ending it off here with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Angels were the team I expected to sign Snell, so I think they could be signing Montgomery here. I think they're a big fit. I think it all depends on what kind of contract does he want, and do the Angels pay that? According to John Heyman, Mike Trout has already asked Artie Moreno personally to make some additions to this roster. He asked about J.D. Martinez, but I'm sure if he asked about Martinez, he wouldn't be mad if they signed another free agent like Montgomery. So I think Montgomery to the Angels makes a lot of sense on paper. Makes a lot of sense because Trout wants it. They always need pitching. They have a nice young core. I think adding a veteran leader like Montgomery, who has a lot of experience in situations that this young team doesn't, I think will make a lot of sense. So I think Montgomery to the Angels is a really strong fit, and a fit I could see coming to fruition. Now the big question is, where do I think Montgomery is going to end up? Now, my personal expertise of where he may end up probably is useless because I expected Dylan Cease to get traded to the Rangers. He got traded to the Padres. I expected Blake Snell to sign with the Angels. He signed with the Giants. So obviously I'm not doing too hot in the predictions department for free agents and trade targets, but I'll give it my best shot. And my best shot is honestly, it's a tie. I really don't know. I think it's going to be the Angels or Red Sox. If my gut feeling tells me it's going to be the Red Sox because they've been mentioned with him a lot, but I just don't know if they're going to be willing to give him that contract. But that's kind of the same questions I have with the Angels. If I had to guess, I would say the Red Sox, but I think it's going to end up between them and the Angels. I said before a while ago that if Snell didn't sign with the Angels, I think Montgomery would, and I still think that's a strong possibility. I'd really go 50-50 with him and the Red Sox. But as of right now, I think the Red Sox just make so much more sense because of the need they have, because he is in the Boston area. I just think that makes it a much stronger fit. Now, because I said this tonight, he'll probably sign with the Astros or the Phillies. But, this is my best guess as of right now. I think Angels and Red Sox are the two teams to watch here. I think those are the teams to look at if you are a guy trying to see where Montgomery would go, or if you are a fan of the team of where or you are a fan of a team that has been mentioned with Jordan Montgomery. So that is my second segment, talking about Jordan Montgomery and the effect Blake Snell signing with the Giants has had on him. We're going to go to our third segment here, which is going to be talking about something different from what we talked about before. It is going to be talking about the opening day starters. Every team has listed them, so we now know all the matchups. So just going to talk about that, give some quick thoughts on it. And we'll see you after the break. Thanks.